So my name is Christine. I'm one of the coaches here at International Coaching and Mentoring Foundation. So just a brief, just to introduce who is ICMF and what we do so that we can move together. So ICMF is a professional organization that specializes in professional coaching, mentoring, and training for individuals as well as corporates. So that is our core business. So we thrive in engaging people, right? We believe when we engage people, we transform them and we also empower them. So that is our motto: engage, transform, and empower. So this is one of our engagement exercises that we do so that we can empower those in business to thrive. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker for today. He's Mr. Clemence Mutembo. He is a very distinguished speaker in the area of customer service and marketing. And he's also imagine he's got 25 distinctions in marketing management. Yes, he does. So meaning he's an expert in this field. And I'm actually thrilled that he agreed to come here to speak to us, and I hope we'll learn a lot. So over to you, sir.
25 distinctions. Marketing. Such an honor, it's such an honor, it's such an honor. You know, marketing is my passion. And when you study a subject, because it runs in you in terms of passion towards it, chances are that you will excel in that subject, because you are bound to want to learn more almost on a daily basis. Just like I do, I'm always learning about marketing. I'm always learning and researching around it, because I somehow see that when you are seeking to run business, chances are very high that you will need to understand the function that brings in the customers. Because marketing, if you come to think of it, in my understanding of it, it principally revolves around getting the people to buy. Getting the people to buy. That is the core. Getting the people to buy, and which is attracting the buyers and retaining them. So those are the twofold aims of marketing: to attract the customers and to retain them. Retaining meaning to keep them and grow them once you get them. Because, I mean, you can set up a business, and when you set up a business, when you do not know how to attract and retain the customers, chances are that, you may find some challenges that are associated with, those diseases. So, accounting is a great subject because it also helps you now to look at how things are moving, particularly from a financial conditions standpoint. Because in as much as you can get customers, in as much as you can do whatever it is you could do, but everything then comes down and drills down and distills into figures and numbers. So accounting becomes another, domain, another field, another specialization that serves another purpose of, reflecting to you in numbers and in figures how you are doing and how you're faring, which is a very, very important function as well, because once you attract the people, once you do the adverts, once you do everything that you could ever do, you have gotten the raw materials, you've done everything you can possibly do. At the end of whatever trading period, you then have to assess your performance in numbers, in numbers terms. You then have to see ways in which you can then measure your financial performance. You also need to measure your your cash flows, you need to see your financial position, etc., etc. So, marketing, in as far as I've understood it, I have discovered that it is so important and critical when it comes to the attraction of the customers, because customers are the ones that principally bring in the so much needed revenue, for the business to run. Because if you're going to pay rentals, if you're going to pay salaries, if you're going to pay whatever expense that you could pay, somehow you need to have some revenue that that you're getting from customers. But we know that revenue doesn't come from customers only, which is why we have what is called sales revenue, which is revenue that's coming from customers. But you know it so well, statement of comprehensive income. So the income statement, kudara, in the income statement, those accountants that have done, people that have done accounting, mazvano yakunzi, statement of comprehensive income, that report. The reason why it's now being called the statement of comprehensive income is that there was a new realization. People saw that the business could be having other extraordinary items which are not within the principal revenue producing activities. Such things as, if you have a foreign operation in South Africa, if you do a conversion of the foreign financials into the domestic primary and functional currency, you are bound to have some gains or losses. So those gains or losses are recorded as other comprehensive income. And if you do a revaluation of property, plant, and equipment, you are bound to have some gains or losses. Those gains or losses are recorded as other comprehensive income. If you do a revaluation of your intangible assets, you're bound to have gains or losses. Those gains or losses are recorded as other comprehensive income. So it was out of that realization that a business could have other forms of income, but which do not come from the principal revenue producing activities. Therefore, we need to come up with a term that captures the entirety of what income the business is going to get from different sources. So that's how the term statement of comprehensive income was then brought about. And it has had, universal acceptance. People love it, people like it, people use it, by way of complying to international financial reporting standards. These things are exciting. Now, let's get to the crux of why we are here tonight. So we are here tonight to speak about brand building and customer experience. So how customer experience will impact on brand building. This is the reason why we are here tonight. So by way of introduction, I would say that customer experience has become the modern term that is now being used to capture the feelings that the customer is going to have as the customer is dealing with the brand from point A to point Z. Let's say the customer sees a billboard and they are driving, they would want to go to a certain supermarket to go and buy some sugar. The customer journey will have started as they become aware of that brand, as they see that billboard. The customer journey has started. So there's a progression of the journey as they go into the physical store, into the physical space, which is the supermarket. And there are also going to be other emotions and feelings the customer is going to have as he or she deals with the business until they get to the end of their journey. They've bought their sugar, they've gone. So the entirety of interactions the customer is going to have with the brand from the first point of contact to the last point of contact is what is nowadays called the customer journey. That is the name that's now being used. So the term customer journey is the one that is now being used worldwide. Whether you go to Malawi, whether you go to the UK, whether you go to America, whether you go to Murambinda, people are now using the term customer journey to refer to the series of steps the customer is going to move from the first point of contact until the sale has been consummated and until the sale has been finalized. So the full breadth and the full range of encounters that the customer is going to have from the first point of contact with the brand to the last point of contact with the brand is referred to as the customer journey. That is the first term that anyone seeking to understand the subject of customer experience would need to know. Because the customer journey, it is within the customer journey that the customer is either going to be satisfied or not because of what will be happening therein. And so the second term that anyone seeking to understand customer experience will need to understand is the term customer touch point. When we say customer touch point, we are talking about anywhere where there is a point of contact between the customer and the business. For example, if the customer gets into the physical store, they have been ushered into a presence. They have already been ushered into the brand. They've already been ushered into a business. And there's a certain way that the customer is going to feel within the context of that particular business. Therefore, the environment becomes the very first touch point. So the touch point is any place where there is contact between the customer and the business. And this touch point is the potential to evoke positive emotions or negative emotions. So these touch points are divided into two. There are those that will evoke emotions, positive emotions of such as happiness, satisfaction, delight, relief. Those are called customer pleasure points. Customer pleasure points. So any point of contact on the customer journey that is going to evoke positive emotions, those are called customer pleasure points. So the customer journey can be diagrammatically represented by this line which I've drawn in front. So from the first point of contact to the last point of contact as the customer is dealing with the brand, this whole range, this full breadth of interactions the customer is going to do is what is termed as the customer journey. So someone is moving with you from the very first point of contact to the last point of contact. They've bought their sugar, they are going home. And so we have said that along the customer journey, as the customer is dealing with you as a brand, as a business, there are aspects that he is not going to like about you. Aspects that will evoke negative emotions like disappointment, frustration, anger, anything negative. So we said those are called customer pain points. Then we also have aspects on the customer journey, things that will evoke positive emotions like satisfaction, relief, delight, happiness. These are called customer pleasure points. And so, as the customer is moving from the first point of contact to the last point of contact, he or she is going to experience some pleasure points, and in some instances, the customer is also going to experience some aspects that are not going to augur well with him or her. These are called customer pain points. But then, the end game of all marketing is that we are trying to create memorable and pleasurable experiences for our customers. Therefore, the customer should have more positive experiences on the customer journey than negative experiences. And so, it is important for us to mention that at the end of the customer journey, the customer is going to have a certain, final position and a condition in his heart. As the customer is walking away from the supermarket, the customer is going to have a certain state in his heart, which is either positive or negative or neutral, based on the engagements and the interactions that the customer has had with you from the first point of contact to the last point of contact. So the impression that will be in the heart and mind of the customer at the end of the customer journey is what is termed as net experience position. Net experience position means the customer has now come to the finality of everything that has happened to him as he or she was dealing with the business from the first point of contact to the last point of contact. So, net experience position. So the word net, some of you that have done accounting, you know it so well that when you are computing profitability, the net position is, you could say, revenue less cost of sales. From cost of sales, if you take away your cost of sales from your revenue, you are getting your gross profit. And from your gross profit, you're taking away other expenses, and then you arrive at your profit or loss position, which is your net position. So net, the idea of net is that we are taking away negative aspects from positive aspects. And the customer is weighing between these two sides of the spectrum. So the customer, at the end of the customer journey, is going to have a net experience position. So this net experience position is going to determine whether the customer would want to speak favorably to you, for you to his other friends and relatives. If the customer has had a negative net impression, net experience position, it means the customer is going to speak negatively about you. And when the customer speaks negatively about you, what does that do to you? What does that do to your revenues? What does that do to your brand? What does that do to your profitability? You will see that it has an effect and an impact on the performance of your revenue, of your sales, of your top line, and consequently of your bottom line. Because when accountants compute profitability, obviously they start off with the top line, which is your revenue or sales. So if fewer people choose to come to your restaurant because they are getting bad and negative experiences, what it means is that you are bound to have less and less customers coming your way. And when that happens, it means you're having less revenue coming your way. And what that means is that you are having less profit coming your way. Chances are that you may actually also get into losses. And from your accounting, you know it so well that a loss, it chews into the equity of the business. The profit, it adds into the equity of the business, because profit is transcribed onto the equity portion of the balance sheet. Accounting is very interesting, isn't it? These are accounts, guys. It is whatever in form 3. But so far, so good. It's understandable. You don't see it. Customer experience. Ungarambe ronda kabla 25 distinctions. Marketing. So I was the top student in marketing. 25 distinctions, straight away. Yeah, so it's my competitive advantage. So when you are running a business, you need to have something called a competitive advantage. Something that makes you special. Something that makes you unique. So when you run a business that has great customer experience, people will love coming to you and they will run towards your business and they will invite their friends and relatives to your business, and that will be a basis for your competitive advantage. And it's Mazona. But of course, competitive advantage does not come from one source. It comes from many other sources. Like, okay, 25 distinctions, it's my competitive advantage. It's something that makes me special and sets me apart from other trainers of the subject. Kunzayo toda we are 25 distinctions. I've also written books, by the way, customer experience, customer service, blah, blah. I'll show you some of them. So at the end of the customer journey, the customer will have a final position. So this is also called final experience position, because this is at the end of the customer journey. The customer has a certain feeling. It is also called ultimate experience position. So we said this position can be positive or negative. So we can have a scenario where we have positive net experience position, meaning the customer is feeling positive about you. When he or she assesses the positives which happen to him versus the negatives which happen to him. So the impression that we need to set and to implant onto our customers is the positive one. So how can you ndakaenda paitengeswa mabanana. Pana madzibaba vanga varapa. Na mai vanga varapa. Ndikati naye madzibaba. Padola ndo anawo mabanana mangani. Zvikanziwo kufunga kwako nepfungwa dzako wanga uchifungidzira kuti panokwana mangani. Ndo mhinduro yandakapindurwa namadzibaba ivavo. So I had a negative experience namadzibaba ivavo. Do you think kuti ndinganotenga futi kuna madzibaba ivavo? Andinganotenga futi kuna madzibaba ivavo. Saka ndakabva ndabvunza hangu pana amai vanga vari pasite. Ndikati naye amai, padola ndowanawo mabanana mangani? Zvikanzi, mwanangu, padola unowana 8 mabanana. Saka ndakazosunungukirwa hangu kuti nditenge hangu pana amai ava. Nenhau yekuti madzibaba ava vakandipa a pain point parwendo rwangu rwandakafamba nawo, kajeni kadiki diki karwendo. Makamboenda kuBulawayo, muchienda anditi parwendo rwauri kufamba pane zvinhu zvichakufadza. Maybe pane mabhambo, maybe pane mapurisa akawandisa ari kungoti tisire mari, maybe muri kukatwa nevamwe vanhu, but kune zvinhu futi zvichakufadzai. Zvakafanana nekuti muchaona scenery yakanaka yegreen, muri kuridzwa music yaunofarira, and I can see kuti imimi murive munofarira music yemazuva ano. Muri kuridzwa music yamunowirirana nayo. That will be a pleasure point. That music is a pleasure point. That scenery, that green scenery that you're seeing is a pleasure point. Speed iri kufamba nemunhu uyu, maybe ari kufamba at a good speed yakanaka, 70 kilometers per hour. Haasi kunyanya kumhanyisa stereki chinhu chino, because akamhanya akaenda 140 makubatirana maoko. It's a pain point. So but pamunonosvika kuBulawayo madzika motikari muyamya, you will have a certain impression about the journey in terms of, because we cannot completely rule out the fact that there are going to be negative occurrences along the way on the journey when we deal with brands, and even in the journeys, the actual physical journeys that we embark on whenever we're traveling to different destinations and places. We are bound to have something that you may not like. Maybe you may not like that, but you may like other things that happen, that transpire as you are moving to your destination. So the ideal, what we want is for our customers to have positive experiences with us. So we have spoken about the customer journey. We've spoken about the customer touch points, which are divided into two. And we've spoken about the two kinds, which are the pleasure points and the pain points. So the customer makes an assessment between the two, and asikana mtenga asingazoti vana vari right here kuti nditi vari right, but restaurant hansi kuzoti right, of course vaita zvakanaka but vambozondikanya futi, but uri pakati nepakati, inonzi neutral experience position. Neutral experience position means you are neutral. Hausi kuziva kuti urerekera kupi, kuti mukomana uyu ndiri kumuda here kana kuti ndiri kunyepere. Have you ever had that feeling? Yekuti mukomana uyu ndiri kumuda here kana kuti handisi, ndomuramba kana kuti but mira ndiborega kumuramba, ndiri kunyepere. Ndo inonzi neutral net experience position. Uri pakati nepakati, ndiri kunyepere mukoma. You have saka neutral unaka wakarerekera, handiti? That's what we mean by neutral experience. So what are the 4 kinds of experience? We are running very quickly. The 4 kinds of experiences that the customers are going to have as they move on the customer journey. Number 1, the customer is going to get into our environments. Environment. So environment is a factor, is one of the things which will impact on someone's experience. So the feelings that the customer is going to have, the experience the customer is going to have when the customer gets into an environment, atmospheric experience. Atmospheric experience. So atmospheric experience, how does the customer feel when he or she gets into our environment? So on the customer journey, the customer is going to get into our environment. And what are the key aspects under environment? What are the key environmental dimensions? Number 1, lighting. Lighting means mutenga akapinda mushop kana kuti munzvimbo iri kuitwa business, munofana kunge muine chiedza chakanaka kuitira kuti asanetseke kuona whatever zvada kuona. So a transaction cannot be done in darkness. Kunzi sign up muri murima. You wouldn't. Would you like to sign a deal? Murima kunzi hey kuno darkness. Mekuti hausiona would you like? Kunzi aiwe say signature yenya. Customer wouldn't like. So if the customer gets into a dark place, it means he or she is going to have a negative experience from your environment. And then B, lighting, sound. Sound is not akuti. When the customer gets into your business space, apafana kuita sound inomkuwadza nzeve. The customer is going to have a negative experience from sound. Kana yakawandisa sound yacho. Makamboenda ku downtown. Downtown, ukampinda kunenge kuchiridzwa, the noise is too much for some customers. Some customers anotopedzera asapinde imo because I don't feel out to know this noise is just too much. Omzati dzora mbijana haadi kudzora. And the music yacho yari kuridza ahurirane nayo. Andimazvona. That sound. But it's also a variable that you look at in terms of kuna dzimwe nzvimbo dzinotoda sound. So you analyze and look at what you should do around that variable. And then see temperature. Temperature zvinoreva kuti mutengi wedu paanopinda munzvimbo dzedu dzebusiness. It means the customer should find the temperature congenial and conducive and ideal for whatever it is that whatever amount of time they're spending in your space. So if it's cold out there, the customer is to walk into a warm space. The customer experience. So when you walk away from this place, you'll be understanding this subject at the back of your hand, just like that. So customer experience, customer experience can't fail, and it can't fail. Temperature. And then D, smells, scents, and odors. Smells, scents, and odors. So the customer must not get into environments with bad odors. They will negatively. Don't forget the customer journey. Whatever we are saying, think through in terms of customer pleasure points and also in terms of customer pain points. So the customer should get into spaces with nice fragrances. That is what customers want, if possible. Which is why Mama hotels, ukashika pa reception, like pamikuza, unosika pane a nice fragrance. That is customer experience, particularly from a smells and sense perspective. DE, ventilation. Ventilation means the customer must get into the place inofefetera mhepo zvakanaka yekuti if customer can breathe well. If the customer gets into a space isiri well ventilated, it gives the customer breathing challenges. So the place where the customer is going to get into must be such that there is enough ventilation within the space. Do you agree? Excellent. So this is the first dimension on which the customer can experience our brand. Thank you. And then number 2, the second type of an experience that the customer, I'm erasing this. The second type of an experience that the customer is going to experience is called the service experience. Service experience, number 2. Service experience now, it means what sort of feelings are you going to evoke or elicit in the customer when the customer deals with your people. Saka, it's about people. And the customer can have a pain point or a pleasure point depending on what happens from the service front. In the aspects like number 1, responsiveness. Responsiveness means the speed with which we respond to customer needs and requests. So, ukaenda patakshop ukavunza kuti mune munhu ero iye achitodya rice zvake asiri kuuya, the person will have delayed and you are going to have a pain point because the person is not responding swiftly and promptly to your needs. Therefore, it becomes a pain point on your journey. So responsiveness. Number 2, customization. Customization, the other name that we could give to this is personalization. Personalization means the ability to deliver a product or a service according to the unique tastes and preferences of the buyer. Zvakafanana ukaenda panogerwa. I see you like your hair. Ukaenda panogerwa. If you tell the barber to, do your hair in a particular way, and if the barber manages to do you that particular, requirement in terms of your personal tastes, the person will have done what is called customization or personalization, which is a key requirement as far as service is concerned because, people are different. Customers are different. So you cannot have a generic solution that will satisfy everyone. So it is therefore incumbent upon you as the business person to make sure that you customize your solutions so that they fit the unique tastes and preferences of the people that are coming to buy from you. So this is what is called customization. And the exciting bit is that there is a positive correlation between customization and customer satisfaction. In other words, ukagonera kuita munhu zvaari kuda mumwoyo make nezvaanofarira unomufadza munhu iye. There is the correlation. Some of you that have done accounting, statistics, correlation is the strength of the relationship between variables. So if you do something nice to someone, according to their unique tastes and preferences, you are bound to satisfy the person. You are bound to make the person. Customer satisfaction, don't forget, it's one of the emotions, positive emotions, that can be evoked as the person is traveling on the customer journey. So if you do your service, if you deliver your product according to the unique tastes and preferences of that customer, you are bound to achieve customer satisfaction. And so what is customer satisfaction? Customer satisfaction is a match between the customer's expectation of value and the value that is derived by the customer. So it's a condition in someone's heart which is characterized by a situation where the customer's expectation of value was met by the performance of the business. So that is what is called customer satisfaction. Then, of course, number 3, friendliness. Friendliness is a very important aspect of service, and it can impact on someone's feelings and experiences. How someone feels based on the friendliness and the cheerfulness that someone is exuding is a very critical determinant of someone's experience. So someone can experience pain or pleasure depending on the level of rudeness of the person that they are speaking to. I mean, you've gone to places where you feel like you wouldn't go there again because of the rudeness of that service provider. So the customer can experience pain and frustration based on the tone of voice. So the customer can experience pain. And when the customer experiences negative emotions, it means that is reducing the revenue that you are going to get in the future from that customer. So it shortens the customer lifetime value of that customer. No, the customer lifetime value. So the customer lifetime value is the future stream of income that you are going to get had the customer not defected prematurely. That is what is called customer lifetime value. You could also say customer lifetime value is the net present value of the future cash flows that are attributable to the relationship that you have with that particular customer. The marketing. The marketing. Don't change the change. And then number 4, dependability. Dependability means sticking to your promises. So if you don't stick to your promises as a service provider, chances are that you're going to frustrate somebody on the customer journey. And when that happens, you are bound to then lose that particular customer. And tell you what, we are now, I mean, if you treat somebody nicely, if someone has a great experience at your business, that interaction is actually setting a precedent for future engagement. That relationship that you have formed is going to be perpetuated, is going to be sustained in the long term. And the good thing about customer experience, if it's going to be great, is that we are now living in the modern marketing paradigm of relationship marketing. And there was a shift from the traditional transactional paradigm. What I'm saying is that somebody who is running a business needs to understand that people are no longer considering just the transactions, but we need to find ways of elongating and perpetuating the relationship that we've got with that particular customer. So there is more revenue that we are actually going to get if we manage to perpetuate that relationship with that customer, basing it on good experiences. And then number 5, thankfulness. Thankfulness is about expressing gratitude to the customer. Always say thank you to your customers. So, I mean, we don't have much time. I'd given, how many? 2 minutes. You give us 5. 5 more minutes. I normally present for the whole day. Companies. So I'm invited by companies, UNICEF, First Mutual, big companies, where I go and present. Roston Properties, all those guys. And then, so the third type of an experience that's going to impact on someone's happiness is called process experience. Process experience means how someone feels when he or she interacts with our processes. as a business. So transaction processes, we are talking about how the customer feels when he or she is making a payment. Or do you guys have swipe? No, we don't have swipe. Do you take Eco Cash? No, we don't take Eco Cash. Do you have change for 100? No, we don't have. So what do you have, you guys? You don't have. So you are giving the customer a pain point and then feedback process. If someone wants to give you feedback, how seamless, how easy is it for that person to, that is what. And we also have, the customer onboarding process. If someone is to be taught, the customer is to be taught how to do this and that, how is it going to impact on their happiness in terms of the ease with which they can, deal with you guys. And then the fourth type of an experience that the customer is going to have, the functional experience. Functional experience, we are talking about how the customer feels when they engage with your product. So the feelings and emotions and sensations and thoughts and perspectives that the customer is going to have after having interacted with your product is what is termed functional experience. So every customer wants to derive some value from the product. The product is an embodiment of value and benefits that are supposed to accrue to the customer. So if the customer does not get value from the product, it means they are going to have a negative experience. I mean, if you buy chips with bent chicken, you wouldn't like the experience. You wouldn't like the experience. Nunzi. Audaiso hausi kushanda. Dziri kungoramba dzichitofara zvadzo nunzi dzichitenderera. So every product gives an experience to the customer. And the product is the principal, point of contact between the business and the customer. So it needs to deliver the set of benefits that are promised through marketing communications. When we talk about marketing communications, we are talking about, nowadays the new term is integrated marketing communications, IMC. The term integrated marketing communication seeks to, put together the different promotional tools, marketing communication tools that marketers use to convey a message to different target audiences. So we have such things like your advertising, public relations, direct marketing, sponsorship, sales promotion, personal selling, and integrated marketing communication. So functional experience is the feeling that the customer is going to have when he or she is using your product. So every product has these quality dimensions: A, functionality and performance. So the product needs to perform according to the expectations of the customer. B, safety. The product needs to be safe to use. And then C, conformance. Conformance means the product needs to conform to certain standards. So if you're going to sell sugar, when you're at 2 kg, it needs to be, 2 kg according to the standard. Whether with 700 grams or when you're at 2 kg. D, durability. Durability means the product must be, usable for a reasonably long time. So these are the things that have an impact on how someone feels. Unfortunately, so in the next 30 seconds, so the term brand, so if we're given an opportunity by the conveners of the meeting, the term brand stands for, so all these impacts on this thing called the brand. So the brand is the overall impression or total impact from all that which is seen, from all that which is felt, from all that which is experienced, from all that which is heard by customers and stakeholders around your business, products, or services. And so the brand is an aggregation of multiple influences, and it's a cumulative aggregation of a number of things that impact on it. And one of the things is customer experience, which is the subject that we've been talking about today. So there's a lot really that goes on within the brand. But if time was permitting, but we are now cutting it short, we are now done. We're going to explain more on how this impacts on the brand, because there's what they term brand equity, which is the value and the power of the brand in the market. I mean, if you put Coca-Cola here, you put another drink here, and if you choose 100 people to say, can you select the drink that you want between these two brands? Chances are that 80% of the people are going to choose Coca-Cola and 20% is going to go to this other drink. And this phenomenon is attributable to a number of aspects and factors which were scientifically studied. And here we are now talking about what is called brand equity. So brand equity, so we, in the marketing lingo, we say this Coca-Cola brand is high equity. And high equity, brand equity is a number of factors, aspects, and determinants, things, drivers, things that, help it to go up. So one of the drivers of brand equity is what is termed brand associations. In other words, what comes into people's minds whenever they think of your brand. And, there's a lot. So this customer experience, it feeds into brand associations. Hey, thank you, guys. It's been absolutely great.
So thank you very much all for attending. It was quite a pleasure to have you at our disposal. So as you requested, we're going to have another session. We normally run 2 sessions a month. So we advise you on the